I'm here because it was a chance to talk about my beautiful boy, Trevor. When a child dies, there aren't a lot of opportunities to say their name out loud. So I love opportunities to talk about Trevor. Trevor was first of all, loving, sweet, giving, hugging child. He really was gentle. He loved nature. We had so many pets, which he loved all of them, whether it was a rat or a lizard or frogs or, of course, his dogs. He had a huge rock collection. Part of his love of science and nature was collecting rocks that eventually evolved into collecting crystals and knowing a lot of the secondary purposes of crystals and how they could make you feel really good or support whatever part of your body needed it. He loved identifying birds. He was a junior Audubon birder. And one of my favorite things about Trevor is when we would take a walk, it doesn't matter where we were, he would always find heart-shaped rocks. And then he would give them to me and say, "Mom, I found another heart-shaped rock for you." So now I like to think that when I'm on a hike and I find a heart-shaped rock, it's a sign from Trevor. He definitely took a lot of risks. He was a skateboarder and a snowboarder and a skier. And he became addicted to cannabis at the age of 15. And from there, his problems started. My son came home from school one day and he said, "Mom, Dad, these really nice kids gave me some marijuana after school and I really liked it." And I said, "Wow, thanks for sharing. I really appreciate you being honest about that." But unfortunately, within 2 weeks, my son's total personality changed. This sweet, loving child was not sweet, very argumentative and mean at times. Over the next couple of years, he broke, I can't even tell you how many things in the house that he broke. There were multiple holes in his wall, in his bedroom, in the door to his bedroom. And there was one time he even hit me. And so when other parents say, "Oh, well, my kid's just smoking pot," I tell them, you need to educate yourself on today's marijuana because it's not the same stuff that you smoked in high school or college. What was 2 to 6% or maybe 10 if you could get Maui Wowie, it's up to 35% in what's called pre-roll now, what we would have called joint or buds, which is now called flower. And then there's concentrates, dab, butter, shatter, wax, and these can go up to 99% THC, not to mention vapes too. They're in the concentrate section. It's not the same thing. And sadly, I had to learn about this while it was right after California voted in Proposition 64. And all of the marijuana is good for you stuff I knew was not true, especially for young adults. I don't care what grown-ups do, but I care about those brains that are 25 years and younger that are going to be adversely affected by using cannabis on a regular basis. And I have no doubt in my mind that Trevor kept on seeking out higher highs after experiencing what he did by moking or by using a dab rig. It's a whole different kind of high. And He did experiment. He kept on going back to marijuana. But one night in November of 2019, he and his friends bought some pills from someone they knew, and they crushed them up and snorted them. I believe there were 3 pills and I think 3 boys. And the next day, Trevor had 1 pill left over. And he was in his dorm room with a friend at Sonoma State University, and he took that last pill. And in the morning, his friend woke up next to a dead body. I found out because Trevor's best friend came over with a picture from Snapchat. It didn't say Trevor is dead, it just said he is dead. And so I said, well, it doesn't say Trevor. Couldn't be Trevor. I would have known about it if it was Trevor. And we aren't on Snapchat. We didn't know that there's a whole nother story. But anyway, it was 6 hours later. And it's only because that friend had come over that we found out that our son had been dead already for 6 hours. At the time, this was 2019, the DEA was confiscating pills laced with fentanyl that looked like prescription pills. This was an M30, oxycodone, and it, by all accounts, looked like an M30. It was the beginning of the fentanyl crisis. But unfortunately, Trevor had already lost a friend to fentanyl poisoning. So we knew about it. We had already attended a funeral for somebody who thought he was taking Xanax, but died. And his girlfriend woke up next to a dead body. So I knew it was out there. And the coroner, when he called to give me the horrible news, I said, it sure sounds like it could be fentanyl. And he said, well, I can't quote on that. Of course, it'll take a couple of months for the toxicology report to come back. I said, I understand that, but I believe this is probably fentanyl poisoning. And the coroner said, I agree with you. So let's just wait until the toxicology report comes back. And it was. At that time, in 2019, when Trevor died, it was 1 in 4 pills that were confiscated by the DEA had a lethal amount of fentanyl for someone who wasn't addicted to fentanyl in it. And so that was 25%. And unfortunately, his friend's purchase sort of mirrors that they took 3 pills the first night, they all were fine, and that 4th pill the night that he died was that 25%. But now it's 70%. It's not something that you can have any feelings of safety around. You just need to assume that there's fentanyl in it now. And that's why, personally, I don't think test strips are very helpful for someone that's using drugs, because no matter what the test strip says, you still need somebody with Narcan who's not using that can revive you when the pill that you take or the cocaine that you take has fentanyl in it, even though it showed it was negative. I know so many of these horrible stories, and I use them. I do a lot of education now around it's not just pot. Just say K-N-O-W instead of N-O, and 1 pill or 1 line can kill. And there's always some opportunity to share one of these horrible stories, whether it's be sure and call 911 and know that there are Good Samaritan laws, because some of my friends' kids were dropped off in front of the hospital overdosing, but they were afraid to call the first responders. There's so many stories. One of the things when When Trevor died, my best friend said, Michelle, this is a lot like the AIDS crisis. She and I both lived in San Francisco in the 80s when so many people we knew were dying of AIDS, but nobody wanted to do anything about it because a lot of people thought they deserved it, perhaps, until a young man named Ryan White got AIDS, and he was a youngster, and he got it from a blood transfusion. And that was the turning point where the AIDS crisis finally got some money behind it to do research, to do some drugs that could slow down or prevent the spread of HIV. And money for education, money about using condoms, not sharing needles, the harm reduction people going out on the streets and passing out needles to stop the spread of AIDS using needles. So that, for me, has always echoed in my head that a lot of the problems, why the fentanyl crisis is continuing, why there's not a national education campaign, why the numbers are still going up in California, it's because of the stigma. And hopefully, I keep on saying, with the thousands of parents that I know who have lost their kids to fentanyl poisoning, hopefully that stigma will be one of the crazy backwards benefits of this horrible epidemic, because there are so many parents speaking out. There's a lot of people like Trevor who were addicted to drugs, but there's a lot of kids who were experimenting like teenagers do. And up until now, teenagers learned from their experiences, but they didn't die from them. And now it's a regular thing.